Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 3rd meeting of the Richmond Selectboard. Do we have any public comment? Start with Mary and Andy.
Yeah, Mary Hole. I'd like to congratulate the Camel Sump Little Leaguers, and Josh probably can report on that they made it the first time in Camel Sump Little League history that they're the champions. And I had mentioned at our BCA meeting that perhaps the town clerk could use sports theme as this year's town report theme. And everybody at home who's got pictures, make sure you tell us who's in the pictures. So again, congratulations. Nice job, parents and athletes.
So they won last time I reported, they won the district championship. Now they won the state championship this past Saturday.
Ooh.
And they head to Bristol, Connecticut this weekend for the New England Regional Championships. And the winner of that tournament goes to the World Series. So pretty awesome for those small kids. They're going to have a blast this weekend. So yeah, congrats. Yeah.
Andy, good.
Andy Bassett. I oppose the speed bumps on Cochran Road. I always have. They do not reduce the overall speed on the road because cars and vehicles slow down, go over, and then they speed up again. Okay, it doesn't amount to anything. Okay. There's all kinds of reports. The reports are listed on the internet that it causes a more pollution because of the break of dust, because of the pollution of accelerating as opposed to just us going along. Your ambulance and a fire, their trucks have a slower response time because of them. Okay, they're not a lot. True. Okay, but if your house is on a fire, where the hell are they? You know? So I oppose the speed bumps and encourage you to take them out. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have any other public comment? Kara?
I'm not going to speak on the actual humps on Cochran Road. I know you have it as an agenda item later. I will not be staying for that. I am actually here to give the select board some history, and I think history is important when making decisions and facts. Facts about signs.
Yeah.
Since I can remember, as a business owner in the town of Richmond, I had heavy equipment and a tandem dump truck, and I paid the town overweight permit to have those vehicles on roadways. If you are not familiar with that, it allows you to have a vehicle over the 24,000 pound weight limit for your roads. It's paid directly to the town of Richmond along with to the state of Vermont, 2 separate permits that you have to get. That being said, the 24,000 pound limit that Adam pointed out on Cochran Road is the same limit that you have on Jericho Road, Hinesburg Road. Every single town by state statute is at a 24,000 limit unless otherwise specified. These are facts. Check me, GPT me, do whatever you want. It's facts. We paid the tax. It's a fact. I want to say why Cochran Road became a truck route, and it was discussed that I own a truck route sign as a town of Richmond resident on Cochran Road. The history behind why it was determined to be a truck route was because the select board at the time did not want trucks traveling through a higher populated area of the village. They wanted to encourage the trucks to go around the village rather than through the village. That's why Cochran Road was determined to be a truck route, is so trucks coming from Heinsberg, Huntington, and you have Heinsberg sand and gravel because you get your gravel from there. So they were trucking that way. You also had log trucks that were going that way, other activities going on. I'm just trying to give you the history of what those signs are and why they're there and why they're allowed to be there, and you can travel over 24,000 pounds. Now, the other piece to this puzzle is who's going to enforce it? Well, you can't enforce speed on any of your roads very limitedly because you have every road in here that's coming to complain, from East Hill to West Main Street to East Main Street, all over are complaining. So nobody's going to enforce weight limits of trucks. But my concern is that we're going to continue down this path of not understanding our history and why decisions are made, and then saying, well, it wasn't us, it was before us. Every decision, every action has a cause that can displace your traffic. And you have to understand, when you displace your traffic in any decision you make around this town, where is it going to? Where are you forced? What neighborhoods are you going to just push that problem to? And that's all I'm asking you to do, is to think about all of your traffic as a whole and understand what you're doing and how it impacts everybody. I came in here with a request. I'm the one who started this discussion for the 15th, 30th, 50th time. It doesn't matter how many times you're asked to think about it. People want you to rethink your decisions when you say those decisions are a pilot project. That's all. The last thing I'm going to say on this that has nothing to do with the humps themselves, it has to do with those recommended speeds of 15 miles per hour that we said we had at our town garage, and that it takes 2 screws to put them in the post that has the speed hump there, and none of them have been installed yet. That was months ago that you determined that, or weeks ago that you determined that, or just days ago. Doesn't matter. It was one way of trying to appease some, to help some, and we still haven't done it. So, having nothing to do with whatever decision you're going to make tonight, if I don't bring it to your attention, you can say, I don't know, I didn't see it. I was driving too fast to notice the sign on the road. That's what people say. That's what people do. Whatever decision you make, I don't have to agree with it, but I will not be treated disrespectful in another meeting ever again. And if somebody is treating me disrespectfully, I'm going to ask them, I'm going to treat them like my children when they were young and ask them if they need a timeout. Because it's not okay. It's hard sitting here. It's very hard to speak up or to try to give you historical information and getting attacked for it. The last time I was attacked was because I had information to provide, because I was one of those people who received a letter. But it doesn't matter who we are. If we don't agree with you, then we're wrong. And that's not how you build a community. That is not how it works. So good luck with how you decide to rule on anything you decide to rule on. And don't be surprised when the taxpayer says something else, when the voter says something else. Because they all don't have to come in here and have their voice heard when they feel somebody else is speaking for them. Thanks, Kara.
Any more public comment? Josh?
I've got a comment or an update about tax bills that were mailed. There was this, I gotta change sharing. Give me a second. All right, should be able to share now. This is a look at, when it pops up here, the letterhead of our tax bill. And we did not catch until after these were mailed that the PO box over here is correct, PO box 285, where you're supposed to pay and mail to town of Richmond, PO box 285. However, the letterhead here, it says 288. And we started to get, apparently some people mailing to PO Box 288, and the owner of that box has been graciously taking that, crossing it out, writing 285 and giving it to the post office. They've been taking that, putting it in our box. The owner of the box came in to talk to the town clerk on Friday, alerted her of the issue. So what we've done since then is we updated on the website. We're putting a post in front porch form to let people know 285 is the correct address. I didn't put on the item as an agenda because it kind of came in after I had finalized the agenda, but I wanted to make sure we did an update in this meeting. We're also going to be mailing out postcards to everybody with the updated addresses to make sure everybody's clear that it is 285 and not 288. And we regret the printing error. We're trying to track down exactly how that happened so we can do a postmortem on making sure that we proof this better next time. We're not sure if it's our error or the printing shop's error, but we're trying to take steps to make sure people know the right address now. Yeah.
Did you check to see if we could sublet box 288?
Well, I'm trying to get in touch with the actual owner of 288 right now to, first of all, thank them for coming in and depositing this, and also try to see what we can do to, kind of like, I'm hoping that communication in the next week or so will sort of nip it in the bud. But I want to make sure that, this doesn't linger into April. And we also asked the post office if they
That's my
could
next
take
question.
any mail that's addressed to Town of Richmond, PO Box 288, and just put it directly into our box. The postmaster here didn't know the answer to that because it's a lot different than what they normally do. So he's asked his supervisor what they can do on that. So if they could do that, that would be the simplest and easiest solution.
That was my second question.
But we're trying to figure out if we can do that. So just a public update, PO Box 285, please.
Mary?
Yeah, just a note on that. It probably won't affect the folks that pay their taxes that live here in Richmond. But when you send a letter out, unless you specifically hand it to the postmaster and say, please stamp this today's date from Richmond, it just goes into the box and it goes to Hartford, Connecticut, or some other strange place to be postmarked, because I got something that was mailed from the town to me. It went to Hartford, Connecticut, and then back to me. Kind of dumb. But anyway, just if folks need something stamped and postmarked, have them stamp it and postmark it if it has, especially if it has to be date specific. Otherwise, it's a day or two late. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
It's a good point. Thank you, Mary.
May go out without saying, but hopefully there's forbearance for anybody who gets caught in this and ends up having slightly late tax payment.
Yeah, I mean, we're still gonna kind of look at the postmark, and make sure, like, if they come in a week late and the postmark was early because it got kind of rerouted, then we'll look at the postmark and say, okay, you were on time. If the postmark is late, we'll have to kind of discussion on a case by case basis. But we, like Mary said, we usually go with what does the postmark say? If it comes in after the date, we're lenient as long as the postmark is the date or prior. But yeah, if somebody has a special circumstance about why it got lost for longer, we'll talk about it.
Thank you.
Do we have any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? Sorry, we're done with public comment, right? Any other public comment? Any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? On to the main agenda. The first item is a review of Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission's group expectations. I think, Bart, did you brought this up?
I mentioned this, it's perhaps not a secret that we occasionally have issues of decorum and behavior both on this side of the table and that side of the table. And I observed that the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission some time ago started using the group expectations and just posting them briefly at the beginning of each meeting and reminding people that they are there. I will say I don't recall, other than some isolated bombing incidents of our meetings, I don't recall any people actually being particularly obstreperous or rude, but it was an attempt to get ahead of that. And it's pretty simple. And I think more than anything, it's an attempt to just get people to set or reset as we enter the meeting. So I leave it to your discretion if we want to adopt this or something similar to it, if we think that would be useful as guidance both for ourselves and other citizens. There are a few that are very, for me, other generation, like number 8.
Mhm.
Does anyone have any thoughts? I would imagine that there was a lot of effort put into.
Yeah, I will
Is there
say
an
this was
arbitrary.
heavily wordsmithed by staff there and reviewed by commission members several times.
Yeah, I like it. I like this a lot.
Might not be a bad idea to print those in postcard size stock and just leave them on the table.
Yeah, Act 250 meetings,
The agenda.
yeah. That would be a good idea. Act 250 does that. When you go to a hearing, they have a stack of green papers to tell you how to behave at the meeting, what you can and can't get into.
Like all behaviors, practice perpetuates expectations.
So we all aim for it. We don't always hit the target, but we all aim for it.
This is true.
Do you want to mull it over for a week? Think about it.
Yeah, I don't
Take
think it's particularly time sensitive or urgent. I just think it is personally. Has at times been useful because, and I think it is more about, David, I use the term self-regulation, where people sort of regulate their own behavior by contemplating this before we begin.
One other thing I've seen at CCRPC is in their main meeting room is poster board size on the wall. So you see it at the beginning of the meeting, and then as you're in the meeting, you also see it at the meeting, and they take 30 seconds at the beginning of every meeting to say, hey, everybody, please take a look, remind yourselves of our expectations, any questions, bang, and then they move on. So they always acknowledge it.
Touch on it again next meeting.
Yeah.
Or any public feedback now, next meeting too. It's obviously a goal we set for everyone in the community, including ourselves. So we're welcome to public feedback. Next we have reminder. Want to go over this, Josh?
Yeah, so we this is a flood study that's been going on for close to 2 years now. We had a kickoff meeting a little while ago over at the library. This is studying the Winooski River and its tributaries to look at flooding, like how can we stop inundation flooding from the Winooski River, and what can we do to better mitigate any flash flooding that comes along the tributaries or along the ditches along roads like Snipe Island and Stage Road. The Stone Environmental is ready to present their study at this point. They've got about 40 or so different potential projects that could come out of this study. So they're going to present kind of the study to date, where the projects are, and then have a lot of discussion with the select board and the residents as far as, well, which projects do we want to prioritize to go to a little bit more design and get them ready to submit for grant funding potentially in the future. So we holding a special meeting over at the library. We hold the kickoff at the library. It was fairly well attended. I imagine this one will be as well. So that's tomorrow, 7 p.m. at the library. And we do need the select board all to be there. So a good reminder to the select board as well that we're going to be doing this. And yeah, you're welcome to attend via Zoom or at the library.
Thank you. Next, we have consideration of a request to close Baker Street for a block party on Saturday, September 12th from 3:30 to 8 p.m. The rain date of Saturday, September 19th, both in 2026.
Yeah, I'm trying
Have
to.
someone here to
Anybody is Trish here?
Baker Street.
No.
I think Trish came last year, right?
I think she might have, but maybe she didn't come this time. So it's pretty straightforward.
This has become an annual tradition for, I'm not sure how many years it happens, kind of every year.
Adam, this is David. I move to close Baker Street for a block party on Saturday, September 12th, 2026 from 3:30 p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. with a rain date of Saturday, September 19th, 2026.
Is Bardell second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I hope they have fun.
All those in favor?
Bard, aye.
Caitlin, I.
Greg, aye.
David, I.
Adam, aye. Next, we have a consideration of making an appointment to the Trails Committee.
So we have 2 openings and 1 applicant.
One, yes. We have Molly. Is Molly online?
Let's see her. Adam, this is David. I move to appoint Molly Dugan to fill a vacant seat on the Trails Committee with a 3-year term expiring in 2029.
This is Bart, I'll second.
Any more discussion? Anyone have a chance to review her application?
She's a great candidate. She's got a lot of government experience. Glad to see her stepping up.
All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Caitlin, I.
Greg, I.
David, I.
Adam, aye. Congratulations, Molly. Next we have, let me record right down who did this first. Next, we have discussion of a request to create a no parking zone on portions of Dugway Road that run along the Aldrich Farm property in exchange for providing the town with an easement for repairs to the Dugway Road that are necessary due to damages from the 2023 and 2024 floods. Josh, you're probably the most versed in this.
Sure, I'll give a bit of a history on what brings us to this point today. So, in 2023 flood, there was some damage to the slopes on Dugway Road. So if you've driven Dugway, you'll know it's at the riverside in certain sections. It's a fairly steep slope, 20 feet or more down to the river. In 2023, with the high water of the Huntington River, it scoured away portions of that, and we knew we had to make some repairs. We were still in the design process and working with FEMA to get to those repairs when the 2024 flood hit, causing more damage in those same locations as well as additional locations. So that then cued more rounds of discussions with FEMA. How do we combine damages from 2 separate incidences? There's lots of sort of things to untangle bureaucratically with FEMA. And again, more design and kind of trying to figure out how we were going to approach this entire project. Sort of fast forward through a lot of that, we've had a couple of extensions from FEMA due to some of these complications. We got into about March and we were starting to reach out for easements because what we realized is the right of way is only so wide. There's a bottom portion of 5 to 20 feet or so down by the river that is owned by other property owners. So we need an easement to figure that out. Our first draft included 2 property owners. Upon review with both property owners, they both said, well, we think that some of these property lines aren't quite right. So we went back, did some more research, and it turned out we just needed an easement from one property owner, Mr. Andy Aldrich. So we, I think, went through a couple months of redrawing everything, got back to Andy and said, okay, here's the easements, here's the area, what can we do to move forward? And also just sort of a note on timing. So we have a completion date by FEMA of end of November. So we're getting kind of tight and it's through various different delays in this project. The advice that we've gotten so far from Fire Emergency Management is that FEMA has not been very forthcoming with additional extensions. I think in the past they've been more lenient, but they're seeing them not be as lenient. So they suggested that we try to move this as quickly as we can. So what we have done, just on a related note, is we went out to bid last week, knowing that, if we're unable to secure an easement, we might just not open the bids. But at least we sort of have that process going while we're also working with Mr. Aldrich on what we can do to secure those easements. So the clock is ticking to some extent. I think, Andy knows that as well, but he also has his concerns and, obviously the easements are of value and he has his request for what he'd like to see. So I think that covers the process to date. Does anybody have questions on how we got here?
Maybe pull up the map that I think Andy.
It's the same thing.
Good call.
If I could interject at this point, I think how the item was listed on the agenda is slightly misleading, saying that there's a connection between our request for no parking and that be compensation for granting a larger easement, and that's not the case.
That's
So
just the timing.
there's two
Elaborate, please.
things going on, and trying to connect them at this point is, and the reason that I asked to come in is separate from compensation for the additional easement.
One of the reasons I wanted to see the map is where would the easement apply? And I don't know if it's easy to see on the map.
Yeah, I don't have the easement map included in the packet. Andy, you probably know, I think we're down in this area for where the easement work is.
If you want, there's two places. Just bear with me. so I can be fairly accurate. The engineer wanted to do some work in this area here. And they weren't, connected. They were two separate areas. And what you've got there is, you've got the road itself. And then you've got the south bank of the road goes down to the river. A question I never got answered, and I'll ask it again because maybe somebody knows. That section was built by the CCC. So it's historic. And I've asked if that's been addressed, because I know you had to address that when you worked at the gorge. And no one seems to know the answer to that. And I'm curious about it because I knew two Richmond residents that worked on it.
Interesting.
So I believe that we've received the archaeological permit and sign off for this project. I think that the engineer Tyler told me we got that about a month ago. So I think that they looked at the history of the road and we've gotten the sign off on that because that is part of the process to get to construction.
So that's the easement. But you had described in your email some of the issues that led to your request. And you also, I think, had some history about the parking area and how that came to exist.
Yes. So where there is, and I'll put in quotes, parking area was created when the town resurfaced the road with gravel a number of years back. Shortly thereafter, and that made it wider at that point for a few cars, maybe 3 or 4, to physically get their car out of the travel portion of the road. And so that, before that, it was difficult for someone to do that there. So when that got done, it made it much easier for people just to, pull in there and do that. And so
Apologize, I gotta go call my wife.
that was the outcome from that work. The problems that it creates for us as property owners there is extensive. I've got 2 pages. If you want to hear a lot of them, it's not even all of them. The quality of life for us there is degraded because of this. If there was no parking, which is my request, it won't eliminate all of it. I'm not foolish. But it would greatly decrease it to a point that maybe, it would be infrequent. But anyway, there's,
Can I ask a quick question?
yeah,
Setting the stage back to the map. So the road and the parking area are bounded on both sides by your property, right? You own both sides of the road?
so where the yellow is where we bound the road. Those 2 yellow areas on your map there.
Right.
So, and where the majority of the parking is, yes, we're on both sides of the road, both sides of the river. And, it's all kinds of things. You've got garbage daily. You've got a drug dealer who this is one of his spots. And growing up in that era when that was done just right out in the open, it's very easy to see the transitions in the transactions. I remember Chief Buck when I mentioned it, not Chief Buck, Muldoon, about this. He was like, oh, you got to get the exact colors and the plate numbers and get close enough so you can get a picture or a good description of the people. And I asked him if he was crazy because I'm going to stick my nose in a drug deal because I might not live through it. You've got, all kinds of norms going on. You've got people come, they target practice on property. And when The only time I approach people is a situation like that, when there's really a significant problem. And when I approached those guys, well, they didn't point their firearms at me. They held them across their chests to intimidate me. So those type of things go on. There's fecal and urine waste from people and dogs all the time. They take your town signs that you do have out there and they pull them down and they throw them in the river. And that's been going on for quite a while. There's times when it's not passable. I've had, when I got my new maple evaporator and the trucker from Canada, Richmond, Dugway Road, has such a reputation that he wouldn't even attempt to come down to the farm from the Huntington Road. I had to hire another truck and an additional expense, put it on the other truck and bring it down to my sugar house. When I got my Christmas tree baler, the trucker wasn't aware. And I had to escort him from our farm on the west end to Jonesville because his next stop was Canaan, Vermont. And we got down there and his truck wouldn't fit. So I had to yell out, and I'll admit this, and kind of make people think that I was the police department, to get up here and move their vehicles so that he could continue on his journey. And then people will direct to me if I have to interact them. They used to drive on an old farm road that went by the barn down to the river, but that's gone because of the flood. And, set up barbecue, picnic and whatever. This started to happen again this Saturday. They didn't drive down, but they walked down. Then on the rare occasions that the constable comes and tickets people, as soon as they see that, they'll start parking somewhere else on property, such as my sugar house, or on the other side of the house. They'll pull off the road there because it's flat. And, this is normal stuff. All this stuff I'm telling you now is normal. It occurs regularly. And, if I ask people to leave, they don't care what I'm asking them to do to get off private property, because they're doing something that's drawn my attention to them because of that. Last year, I got attacked by a dog by someone who was there. And I'll have you know that less than 24 hours before I needed to start to get rabies shots, because the dog had no registration, no collar, nothing. Call the Richmond Police Department. Recording says call Heinsberg Department. Tells you to call the state police. State police take the information and say thank you. And I asked them, well, anything gonna? No, they weren't gonna do anything. Maybe your town will help you. I will say that the town officer did, with what little information I had, track the guy down and his dog. I did not have to get the rabies shots, but just think of the anguish I went through all those days. That's not the only time. I've had another person with a dog on property sick their dog on me because I was bothering them working in my sugar bush. Anyway, it goes on, and the backcountry skiers, they like to pull my sap lines down, even during sugaring season. Then I have no vacuum.
Right.
The mountain bikers, same story. We're always under attack out there. Couple years back, the mountain bike club was building trails up in the area, and a neighbor told me, and I went out and looked, and they were just starting to go onto our property, coming off another person's property. I contacted them. At least the woman in that group came and met with me, and we talked about it and discussed it and looked at maps, and she took care of it. So I'll give her credit for that. But still, we're always under attack out there by people that just want to do whatever they want to do, wherever they want to do it. So I lose money on things, I lose time on things, and all of those type of things happen. making repairs to the tubing because, you know, you're trying to make syrup.
Mhm.
Throw some other pieces in there, they fit into how things go. Every year, I have to report the number of Christmas trees that get stolen at night. On the federal tax form, we have to keep track of our trees to the tree. And of course, the state wants us to do that too, so that they collect their sales tax, but it's that, we have to keep that record in detail. So after the season, I go out and count the stumps and I'll have 5, 6, 7, 8 more stumps than that were unaccounted for. So the thing I can tell you about signs, was, you know, you can put them up, they won't do any good. They'll ignore them or they'll tear them down. You can share this one. That's typical. There's one of your signs, vehicles totally in the travel portion of the road. And the sign's right there. That's so you understand why I say it ain't gonna do any good, just signs. I've got, this is not a hot day. This is a typical warm day. So you see how many vehicles are in the travel portion of the road.
Did that,
I've asked for help
It's pretty bad.
individually with different members of the, think of the right word. Town administration, maybe, selectman, manager, other people of interest. And why I'm here today, because I felt it just keeps falling on deaf ears. So if you would consider doing that, I have some suggestions that will help. You can sign it, but you're gonna have to enforce it with the laws. You're gonna have to put physical barriers in place. If you don't have the physical barriers, it's not gonna change anything.
Right.
And when you put the physical barriers in place, they'll find another spot. And a perfect example of that is a couple of weeks ago, the town constable was there writing tickets. Well, one guy pulled in and parked at the sugar house. Another guy went past the house and there's a flat area up there and drove and had his nose up to the Christmas trees. And I asked him what the hell he's doing. And he said, well, I don't want to go down there. I'll get a ticket. So being a farmer, I'm there almost every day. And being in my 70s, I don't last all day. So I'm not there at the peak times in the summer. Because I wear out and I have to go home. But you know, this is the kind of stuff. These are examples. It's not, like I say, it's not a complete list. And if you did these things, you'd have to be prepared to do additional things as the public adjusts to the things that you do. There isn't anything I can do. I can ask people to leave. The man with the dog who attacked me and chewed both my legs up, I asked him to leave. I had to go up to Sugar House and get my phone and start making those phone calls. And I watched and watched and watched, and it was just short of an hour before he left. So he went swimming for a while and did whatever. And that's typical too. You'll have people fights, dog fights. All the time. People will drop their drawers in front of me and take a dump. I'll be in my Christmas tree sharing them. And there was 3 ladies. 2 ladies stayed at the road. The other lady walked down in behind a couple of Christmas trees and dropped her drawers and took a dump. I thanked her for the fertilizer. On she went. She didn't care. I'm sure that you're aware that the public is different in the times we're in now than they used to be. And I'm aware of that. But when this is thrown in your face every day, you reach a point and you say enough's enough. We're gonna find some solutions. And we're gonna go for it. And as I said, when it comes to the easement, these aren't directly linked.
I'd like to plumb this with you further. I don't think you need to convince us that Dugway Road is problematic. I mean, we've taken a stab at trying to manage parking along that. But you know, I just live across the river on Snipe Island Road, but I ride my bike the length of that road often in the summer, and I see what you're talking about.
But even your
Cars parked.
parking committee, when they came with their
Right.
measuring devices, they did their thing. I asked them what they were doing. They wouldn't even tell me their names.
Well, I think you're here at the right place. I mean, the select board has it within our wherewithal to help you. None of us are sort of deputized to patrol the roads on behalf of the police, but I mean, the kinds of things you describe are just plainly unacceptable and deserve a response. I'm not aware, as I look at the map, I'm not aware of parkable surfaces for the entire length of that lower yellow line, but I'm well aware of the upper yellow line where you mention it.
Right.
And I think, I'd like to ask you to just address for a minute that the engineering request. Because the town is coming to you and asking you for consideration so that they can fix the road. Would those engineering improvements cut into your arable land? Are you going to lose X number of acres, or you going to?
No, the amount of land is not significant.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the only way that I say these two items could be linked, it's the first time I've ever had any leverage.
Fair enough. And then, so the engineering repairs could be affected without you taking, a big economic hit. So I'm just wondering if you're looking for some other form of compensation other than help with the parking.
I shared this with Josh.
Mhm.
I was a career home builder.
Yeah.
And so I've been through pretty similar scenario 2 or 3 times as to what this road repair thing is. And the family there's not opposition to it, if that's what you're wondering. It's it does go to, if I felt that if I saw that we were gonna get some help,
Right.
if I saw that was gonna happen and what was gonna happen was actually gonna amount to something, the family would be encouraged to help speed your stuff along.
I've got family members who grow Christmas trees. I know what that work is like.
So,
It's interesting that people are essentially parking outside of the right of way if they're parking on that side of the road, it seems.
well, they just,
No,
They're not.
no, don't you have stakes that are about the edge of the right of way by that parking spot?
no, the purpose of those is before those were there, they parked on both sides. Then nothing could get through.
Right. It gets bad.
Can I just, as far as number of spaces, so I asked Chief Cohen to kind of take a look at this. He said that in those yellow spaces, there's about 6 spots, 6 legal parking spaces where you can get fully off the travel portion of the roadway. And I think, as you mentioned, they're mostly on the northern section because the southern section is a pretty steep drop off to the river. So we're really talking about 6 spaces, and I think right now there's about 50 parking spaces that would be legal off the travel portion of the road on the entirety of Dugway that aren't in that red zone, which is no parking, which extends for 2 miles. So just to give scope.
Good.
I'm John Rankin. I'm a member of the Parking Advisory Committee. We haven't had a chance to discuss this, so I speak only for myself. We did run into Mr. Aldrich a few years ago when we were looking for parking spaces. I apologize if I didn't share my name at that time. And so three of you weren't on the committee a few years ago when there was much change to the parking regulations on Dugway Road. But there was a cooperative effort with town staff, with the select board, parking advisory committee, trying to make sure that emergency vehicles could get through to make things safer. We looked at the parking of the 6 spaces that are legal, that are off the traveled way, and wanted to not change those, to leave those as legal. And my concern is, and if Mr. Aldrich deserves compensation for helping with the construction, that's perfectly fine with me. But if you remove 6 spaces, then some of this isn't particular to his problem behavior, isn't particular to his area. You'd potentially be cascading problems down Dugway Road, making things worse for other residents who then come back to the select board and say, please get rid of these parking spaces in front of my house. And so if you're going to make changes, I would do it in a deliberative manner. Also, changing the traffic ordinance doesn't take a considerable amount of time, so it probably wouldn't meet your FEMA deadline. And conceivably one could change things back afterwards, but
keeping the parking spaces does not take away the people who create these problems.
There can be bad behavior of people that park anywhere. And I would be really hesitant to remove a town resource without a deliberative process.
And also the people
And
who park
ask a
there
question?
have
Yeah,
to
go
go
ahead,
on
Bert. Sorry.
private property from the point, once they park there and leave the right of way.
Andy, hold on for a second. So that's my question. So you refer to the town resource, but it's private property on both sides.
The resource I'm referring to is that people can walk there down to the land trust. And people do park there and walk down to the land trust. People park there, seniors park there and walk the other way because it's a nice road to walk on. So the resource is a parking area that currently is in the town right of way and available to town residents.
Let me ask a follow-up question if I could. You know, one thing that people do under these circumstances is put up no trespassing. They post their land. So I don't want anybody here without permission. Have you contemplated that and the pros and cons of trying to?
There's way more negatives to posting than there is positives.
Oh, you got
Me to speak out of turn, but we have
Paul and then Chief Cohen.
some 3 great towing companies here in town. If you with the proper signage and people are parking legally, they got towed, they get the message pretty quickly. So that's how they do it in the big city. You park in the wrong spot, you get towed.
And the fine has gone up this year with the vote of the select board.
But the fine, I don't know how often people pay that fine, but if you remove their car, they're gonna pay a fine. So should maybe have a little bit more teeth in this, because this problem's grown and grown and grown.
Yes, it has.
30 years I've been here, and I feel sorry for the people who live on Dugway Road.
Chief Cohen?
So I guess my first point would be to Mr. Aldrich is if you do post a property or if people are on your property that are misusing it, please give us a call so we can address it when it's happening. That would be a first step to address behavior on your property, including people who are using your areas like to park illegally, because we can't tow or enforce anything outside of the town right away without your permission and your direction. So if you call someone's trespassing or they're parking at your sugar house and not supposed to, make sure you can call us and then we can go and address it. The other piece would be if this does turn to a no parking zone, it would be year round, which includes people who might be visiting his property during the winter time, or it might affect his property in that sense too. So be aware of that. And lastly, we have been stepping up enforcement this year with a high number of tickets and have been towing cars who are parked illegally that are blocking the roadway. So those actions are happening this year. And at the end of the season, I plan on doing a compiling of all the tickets and who was paid and all that stuff, and give a response to see if our efforts from last year's change has made a difference.
I mean, this is as tricky an issue as parking on all of Dugway Road is, right? That we can sign things appropriately. And there is always people who do not follow the signage.
Yeah, I mean, your malefactors are largely in their teens and early 20s. And I know there are older people too, but I see who's coming and going from those parked cars. There's oftentimes alcohol involved. I'm sure there's other things as well. I do take the point that we can't do anything here on a sort of snap judgment. But I think your general concern lands hard with me, and I'd like this to continue as an item. Maybe we can work together with the parking committee to sort of evaluate the information that the chief is collecting and see how we're doing. We have a near-term problem, which is, we need to do some road repair, and we have a longer-term problem, which is we need to make your quality of life what it should be for somebody who lives in Richmond. And, I want to support you in this endeavor. We've learned, on a lot of these traffic and roadway related issues that, there's constituencies on both sides of these things. So we have to tread, like you said, with deliberate care. But I don't think anybody should have to live with people walking into their yard and defecating, or, I agree with Dr. Parker. I think, if somebody's parked in your driveway, it's called North Fork, or, I think we may need to have an understanding of where it's appropriate and where it's not, but.
Well, the point of that was, is as soon as they got squeezed, there were no more
No, I
parking
understand.
spaces left.
I understand.
It just pushes them into the other part of the property. And as I said
Well, it's all
before,
up and down the road, and we're aware of that. I mean, the closer you get to Cochran's Road, I mean, it gets the area around the triple buckets and the lower falls is it's a nightmare.
yeah, I grew up here and I've
Right.
seen it go from what it was 75 years ago to what it is today. And the people who park there and walk, that's an extremely rare occurrence. I mean,
I don't know.
I'm on the farm, so the stuff is there for me to see. Because everything I do, particularly in the summer, is outside. So you can't miss it if you're on property. I mean, once in a great while, you'll see someone park there and go for a walk.
I don't believe everybody who comes to the swimming hole is evil, though, and I don't think that everybody is doing all the awful things. I mean, you're.
But don't think it's just the young people.
Yeah.
It's the people, the age span is as wide as we are when we're living. And don't think that, I've had people say to me, oh, these are all people from Burlington. It's not.
No.
Because when I interact with them and do find out something, it's, Richmond people, Huntington people, Heinsberg people, majority are close by. Another thing that happens that I thought I had stopped 3 years ago, started up again this year, is there's a group of people that come out from, I don't know where, dig up plants and they take them to Burlington and they sell them to the nurseries and the health food stores and whatnot, and they just appear and start digging.
No, I have people come out of my woods with baskets of mushrooms.
Yeah, so.
No howdy do or anything. I get.
And it's not for personal use. I mean, they're making money doing this because they're reselling them. For the ones that I've talked to, that's what was happening. And new this year was a camper that was parked overnight. Somebody pulled in there and stayed overnight. That happened twice.
I appreciate the parking issue, and I think that we do need to help you in this particular spot. There's a level of frustration that we all, that gets on everyone's mind, but I think we've all come to accept is going to be challenge everywhere. And then there's, where it crosses that line where people are, I think the term Greg used very properly was defecating. It's probably not the term I would have used, on people's property. And that's clearly unacceptable behavior that we got
And
to
right,
address.
right adjacent to what is called the parking spots there, I had to clear cut that. Because if you went in there July and August, when it was brush and trees, it stunk so bad.
Hmm.
And this only decreased it down to, now I don't very often find stuff, but they still can get tucked in around the corner there, and they will.
So how do we want to, seems like we have two, how do you put it, not directly linked, but potentially leveraged issues of the easement and then parking. How do we want to proceed with this? What do we? I don't have any.
If you change, if we change the parking and take away the spots, are they just gonna park in your driveway? Like, it sounds like that's what happens when they run out of
That they
parking.
may park farther down Cochran Road, and then you'll have other people, residents coming to you and saying, ban the parking in front of our house.
What, if we take it off of the spaces on your road, you've seen people parking your driveway, parking your, at your sugar shack and so forth, like, is that just gonna happen, or are we pushing the issue to somewhere on your property, like? Are we gonna make it worse?
Well, it just, I don't see any solution unless there's a complete ban. And physical things are done. So the highway crew comes out almost once a year, put signs back up. And notice those signs don't even really relate too much to my area. Because, the one picture that I took that is on our frontage that I brought to show you. And, that sign's disappeared 3 out of the 4 last years, and now it's not a no parking sign, it's a high fine.
No parking, high fine zone.
That's good for people that can use a QR code. I'm not sure everybody's doing that.
Sure, yeah, we had.
Is there even a clear timeline to get I guess, say we're amenable to this and we think this is a reasonable request on its merits. I don't think we are in a position where if we didn't think this request had merit, we would pursue it just for the sake of getting the easement. But I do think that there is a discussion to be had about the merits of this request, whether it is tied to the easement or not. I can only speak for myself when I say that. But knowing that they are in some level intrinsically linked due to timing and leverage, as you had put it, I don't disagree with you using it if this has been an ongoing issue for many years.
Well, I think if you were in my position
Yeah.
and you had these
Yeah.
two issues,
Yeah, I don't blame you at all.
it's
I
like,
see how you'd get there.
why do I want to give you something when I'm getting no help whatsoever?
Even if we want to address this, there's a much longer process to address the parking issue, and it does need to be done in a calculated, committee vetted way, and it requires an ordinance change. So timeline wise, that seems to be just strictly prohibitive. All other issues aside, what would you like to see to enable us to use the grant funding and see progress on this, knowing that short of the change being formally enacted, it's not going to be a sure thing. That's how things go. That's a tricky question, I understand.
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure for an answer for you.
I don't have a proposal either.
I know
I don't think any of us
I know
do.
my family members who are on the title with me. need a commitment.
What do we?
Well, if we were going to go down this path of changing the parking, because what hit us was a specific request for no parking, and I'm aware of the more or less 6 spots.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of if there are viable parking spots on the other side or whether it's already no parking because it's not.
I mean, across from the 6 spots?
Yeah, the long yellow line, if you will.
Well, there are, in some places. So people do path all the way up here. This is across from the 6. And without the posts on the opposite side of the road, you'd have a dozen more cars. And that used to happen. And then nobody got through.
So the posts are at least a hint at a solution.
Well, till they yank them out of the ground, which they do.
Well, okay, you know, I mean,
And I feel sorry for the, like,
put up an 18-foot fence, people are gonna come with fence cutters as well. But I mean, what we can do is what we can do, and then the rest comes down to enforcement.
Yeah.
I'd like to suggest that we craft some kind of memorandum of understanding between ourselves as a select board and the Aldrich Farm to reach some kind of amenable closure on this, understanding that to do it right is gonna take more time than I think the parameters of the grant allow. You're saying you're looking for some kind of guarantee. I don't think anybody's ready to do that tonight. But I'd like to think through that with our civil engineers and maybe our town attorney and come up with an agreement to apply ourselves to this problem. I mean, you have to understand that all we can do is make it illegal. And, you know, there's still gonna be people who are more than happy to break the law. You know, and all we could, there are limits to how much we can ease your pain.
Yeah.
The rest of it's gonna come down to, you know, as Dr. Parker said, you're gonna have to call somebody and have people start getting towed.
Put a sign for stuff. You're gonna put up a sign saying violator will tow.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
shot, you know, I think, I don't want you to, I don't know that we're ready to do something tonight, but I think you've laid something big at our feet. I think there is a legal way for us to establish a working agreement between ourselves to work on this problem. And that it certainly is gonna have to involve the parking committee. It's no guarantee that if we can create legal parking spaces within the town right away, that it's in our interest so that you defend that. But, you know, there may be other things that can go along with that, like fencing or barriers, like you said, physical barriers. And the chief is already committed to vigorous enforcement. He's doing the most he can with, you know, there's just the 2 of them right now. So they've got to be everywhere at once, you know. Nonetheless, he's very responsive, and I think, you know, we can talk to him about this particular issue. I think they're all aware of it. I would like you to feel like your town government is listening. It's just, you know, we can only move as fast as we can.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, and I wrote it in my notes, I know it's not gonna get 100% of the problems away, but if it takes almost all of them, then we've gotten somewhere.
Yeah.
Bard?
Well, so I'm just getting back to the concrete. There were sort of, I think, 2 separate but related requests to turn that small yellow spot into a no parking area. That is patently a viable parking area right now, and to take it from viable to not viable. And then the second request is the yellow down there. To go down that path, we have to contemplate a change to the ordinance and a hearing, so we could at least take the steps in that direction. And at any time back off it, but at least to go down that path. Because then you'd get into a discussion of the pros and cons, and people will come out of the woodwork or out of the woods or whatever and say what they want to say for or against it.
And the next, if you wanted to go that route, I mean, the next thing would be to come back with draft ordinance, change language, probably on the next meeting, August 17th, and at that point, consider setting a date for a hearing. Which would be
But
probably the second meeting in September. So just to give you an idea of the timeline, I agree that's probably proper next steps, but it does take some time.
I don't know, draft ordinance is gonna be, it could be premature until we've had a chance to do the deliberative process that parking committee is requesting. I do want to carry this forward, and I don't know if we can ask for any kind of maps or anything that the parking commission has, that we can use to work on this issue. When do we run out of fuse on the grant?
November 30th is our completion date.
Completion date.
Yeah, but that's for construction. So that's pretty quick,
What is it, a 1 month construction?
probably slightly more.
Yep.
It's a decent amount of work.
It's not in your interest to have Dugway Road fail any more than anybody else who lives there.
No, because when I started the Christmas tree farm, it had failed
Right.
and the trees kept growing, but I had no sales because people felt they couldn't get there.
Right.
And so I know what that means.
So,
That aims them up West Whitehill, which is not where you want.
Well, an aside from this, our location compared to the village always amazes me. People from this part of town think that the way to get to like the Christmas tree farm is go to Jonesville and then come there. And that's quite a bit longer and it's dirt roads. And that's, versus going on Huntington Road and coming a short distance.
Christmassy though.
Yeah, it just amazes me.
it is over the river and through the woods.
You gotta go up or down the dirt road. It's always better to go up the icy road than down, so.
And even if the town got rid of those 6 parking, changed the traffic ordinance, got rid of those 6 spaces, construction could be done, the town could reverse itself. So maybe Mr. Aldrich feeling goodwill that we're working on his problem rather than a change in the traffic ordinance would be the most meaningful.
Well, yeah, I don't want to forever close the door on legal parking spaces. Again, this is a town-wide resource. And to the extent that it's within the right of way, we have to take care. But all the other activities you described, all the various and sundry forms of trespass, all of that really needs to be stopped.
But this never took off until the spaces were created. All of this activity never really got going.
I know, but the swimming holes are very popular around the state.
Yeah.
I'd like to get to a point where you feel comfortable letting the road repairs happen, understanding that at the end of November, that money's gone. Maybe we all go away and come back next meeting with some thoughts on how that happens. You don't have to convince us of the problem. I don't need another recitation of the evils of swimming hole denizens, but I do think constructive thoughts on, how you think these problems can be helped and, physical barriers and the like. I don't know. I'm not in charge here, so.
You are 1/5 of in charge.
Okay.
Caitlin.
I think we've all said our piece. I'm just trying to think of okay, if you take those spots away, they park somewhere else, right? So if you take the 6 spots away or parking's full, they end up finding another place to park, and that's part of the whole picture. So we're trying to band-aid. The bigger issue is if we don't have parking up there, there's no good parking up there. And I am trying to think through beyond a amazing grand plan of making Cochran Road more accessible to alternative traffic types like cyclists, so forth, and allowing the right traffic up that road in a safe way, which is a long-term, maybe never going to happen type of thing in my dreams. But outside of that, it's finding a place for them to park. I'm very much asking this out of curiosity solely, but and I know there's a lot of permitting and details to this, but have you ever considered a paid lot where you're actually charging to have people park on your land for the I mean, if we need an alternative in order to cut off these spaces, like if we had somewhere to put them and had landowners that wanted to partner, I have no idea what that looks like.
So
So,
it brings people on property we don't want on property.
gotcha.
Got it.
That's the bottom line.
That's too bad.
And
Yeah.
because they exist, that's what happens.
Yeah.
And as I said, I'm old enough to say that in my early years, these kind of things wouldn't have happened. But people are different. They have a different perspective. And when I have to interact with them, I mean, one of their favorite sayings is, but it's open land. And, you know, paraphrasing another approach that they take when I have to interact with them, is they feel it's their right to do whatever they feel like doing. And, you know, I couldn't wish any of this on anybody else. It's just grown and grown every year, more and more and more.
Gonna have Chief Cohen speak, and I think we gotta peel off and move on.
Yep.
Anyway, I think we're gonna come back in a couple weeks and think
You
about-
can feed me back something in a
think
couple
about what a
weeks.
commitment looks like for you. We'll think about what we can commit to without overstepping and overpromising. We don't want to promise something that we can't, as a select board, really ever follow through on through the process.
It seems to me that might more effectively be done separately between the town and Mr. Aldrich, between now and the next meeting. And then at the next meeting, we contemplate what do we want to do about the parking ordinance. And presumably at the same time, the parking committee would be entertaining this. And I could understand a position of keep the parking spaces, don't keep the parking spaces. Maybe that's what we'll be faced with. That's the choice, either keep them or don't. But I think that is sort of the presenting request. So we ought to deal with that.
Chief
so-
Cohen?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the last statement Mr. Aldrich had made with it be the person saying it's open land. Without it being posted for no trespassing, it is open land because it's not direct curtilage of a home. And although a property owner can address it individually with people, if the person doesn't want to leave, then they do need to call the police department. If it's properly posted as posted land, then people should not be accessing it. So one of the ways to address people accessing the land, and they get rid of that defense of it's open land. The open land laws does say unposted open land is not part of a household. They are allowed to walk across. So that would be one thing to do to try to address some of that behavior.
Thank you, Chief.
But if you post it, they pull the signs down as fast as you put them up. And if all the standards for posting are not met and continued 365, 24/7, they know the rules. And if you take them to task and there's one flaw, you didn't get it registered on the right day in the town, you lose. It's almost impossible to post land and have it correctly done and have it stay that way. It just isn't. So it's another one of those conundrums that, and that's why we don't post it, because in the end, if you took someone to task, you will lose. They will win. They'll find a flaw. Because it's impossible to keep posted land without a flaw. They say, well, I didn't see a sign where we walked in. It's because they yanked it down when they walked in.
Well, Greg.
No,
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I
that's-
I
yeah.
think we've gone as far with this as
Yeah.
we can without sitting down
I
and
get it.
actually mapping out a plan.
And I feel like that I think you've started to feel, the board started to feel. And I'm sure there's probably some other spots in town that same problem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wouldn't surprise me. I know down in Jonesville that the trust had some parking, and after what, a year or two, said, that's that. They closed it.
Yeah.
Because it brings problems.
Thank you for coming,
Hey,
Sharon.
appreciate it. Thanks for your time. Next, we have another car-related issue, car-related issues in Richmond. A discussion of installing a radar feedback sign on West Main Street.
So this was, I think, part of a public comment at the last meeting, and decided to bring it back to the agenda. I just want to give me a little bit of history before we get into it. So in 2023, the select board did approve installing radar speed feedback signs on Route 2 at both entrances to the village. We proceeded with a rather lengthy process to submit a permit to the state to install the sign. Some of that was they had to put up a temporary or portable radar speed feedback sign, turn it off, and just collect speed data. Add that to the 1111 permit that goes to the state. We did that. They came back and said, well, they wanted more engineering about how the signs get put up. So we were working on that. But in the meantime, there was discussion about, are the signs that we have working well enough? So they were similar, they're solar powered. They're similar to what we have over on Cochran Rd. In the wintertime, those have issues. We've tried to address them various ways. Duncan's sent the batteries out to get repaired. Sometimes they see that we kind of tinker with them and try to find better ways to get them done. However, long story short, that process started and we sort of put the brakes on putting those signs up on Route 2. That kind of drug us into around springtime-ish of 24. We were starting to look into some other ideas. We didn't get too far as like where other speed feedback signs might be more reliable and operate more often. Maybe hardwired signs. We'd have to look at the cost and how do we get those installed. I think what ended up happening was we were starting to look into things. We got to the 2024 flood. Everything sort of got tossed up in the air. And we never really revisited this one. So I think it's good that we're sort of coming back around again. We were talking this morning actually with Chief and Duncan about like, okay, where are we at with the current signs? Like, what do we know? What do we know that works? What can we do? So that when we do look to install new signs, we make sure we install signs that are going to be more meeting our expectations and we know what those signs can do. So just wanted to give that history as far as, because some people might recall, well, weren't you gonna? Well, yeah, we were, but that's where we got to with it. And then I guess also in the interim, since we talked about this at the last meeting, Dr. Parker put a petition around. I didn't count the number of signatures, I think 2025 or something like that. It looked like mostly neighbors up on Route 2 that were also in favor of doing something, probably installing radar speed feedback signs there. But I can let Dr. Parker talk to that more specifically if that's where you want to go next.
Thanks. I'll be brief. First of all, thanks for your service to the town and its residents. I know you spent a lot of time and away from your family, so thank you. I'll be very quick. I'm just here to speak in support of the petition to have a speed study done on, just a correction, it's on East Main, not West Main. This says West Main. Though I'm sure it's a problem on West Main too.
Both will say.
Yeah.
I thought it was West Main from the last. I think I wrote the agenda item based on the public comment, and your petition was East Main?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
fine.
sorry.
It's not a long strip of road.
I was just
They're
about to get the
connected.
final touches on this when I got your petition, so I was trying
Main
to.
Street.
Trying
Not a problem.
to include it.
Not a problem. So, and the other thing that's happened in the meantime is the overpass was reconstructed and it's a much straighter shot into town. So we are seeing, over the years, of course, we've seen a lot more traffic, a lot more noisy vehicles, but the biggest concern we have as residents is the speed at which people are coming through town. It's well marked, up near your place, 40 and then 30, there's a couple warnings and then it's marked 30 at the fire station. And we regularly have people, I don't have a radar, but regularly people come through there, I'm sure going 45, sometimes 50 miles an hour. There are pets, there are kids, there's a blind woman who lives on the road. And it's just a big problem. We know that the police can't be everywhere. There's not enough police to enforce all of this. I spoke with some police officers a couple of weeks ago, asked about having a radar speeding system, and I've come to learn that that's not a thing in Vermont. We haven't come to the European standards yet. That would be helpful, but that's not something we're going to solve. So we called the VTrans and asked if they would be willing to put up a radar speed feedback there just to warn people of how fast they're going. And we were informed that we had to get a study done by the town before they would consider that. So that's what the petition is regarding, is town to do that.
Well, I think that when we did this back in 23, the study was essentially putting up the data collector, which was a temporary portable radar speed feedback sign that you turn it off so people don't get that feedback, but it just collects
Collect the
data.
Gotcha.
And then we proved, I forget what the average speed was, but it was high enough where the state said, okay, you can put in that. So what I would, if you guys want to bring this back up and pursue it, what I would think is I could check back in with the state, see if that study still holds, if they would still consider us installing the signs. And then do a little more research on what is a better type of sign that we could put in there, look at some cost differences between the solar powered and higher quality signs, and get some feedback on where you guys want to go with the type of sign. And then make decisions from that point based on if we have the permit from, and if we don't have the permit from the state, it's, I think, fairly easy to just bring the portable one out there and collect more data. So it's not like a full speed study like we're talking about when we do a speed limit change, which takes months.
It's all within with our own control.
Yeah, I think it's fairly simple. I think we do have to get a permit from the state to put temporary collector up, but I would just recycle the one we did a couple of years ago. It shouldn't be that hard.
They're faster now, trust me.
Are they faster with the turnaround
No,
permits?
I'm talking about the.
Oh, the
traffic
cars.
in
Oh,
town.
yeah.
Okay, so
Faster than
maybe,
it
maybe we do another study
So,
just
I
to
mean,
see how it's changed.
If the study
Yeah.
works, then why spend the time doing that?
But
But
just
if
to
if
see
it's
if
not,
we-
then it's pretty clear to me.
Yeah, people are faster coming up the hill too. I don't know if it's a great shot. Smoother road
They
makes it
speed
easier.
coming from the stoplight going east as well. So thanks for your time. Oh,
I just,
Great.
I'm informed that we own one.
The portable one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So if we need to, we could put it out, but I think I would start with the state to say, would you still let us submit a permit for permanent ones based on the data you have? But we could also put it out just to get more data if you wanted to. I mean, Chief Cohen's on the call. You could probably bring it out there pretty quickly if you wanted
Pardon?
to.
I just remember past discussions with the State Agency of Transportation, who's referred to it as their road.
it's a federal highway.
So are we able to put up a speed sign on their road without their permission?
Well, that's the permitting process.
Yes.
You need to get a permit to put the temporary one out to collect the data. And then once you have the data that supports your permit application for the permanent ones. And then the permanent ones, as we learned, they are fairly specific about the engineering behind the type of pole, the type of sign, what are the breakaways? So you gather that from the sign company. So it's possible, and they were open to it. It seemed like they were open to it back a couple of years ago. So I think it's worth revisiting.
Kevin?
I think Chief Cohen's probably gonna stand up for the same thing, because we've been trying to gather some of the data and collect it all in a central place that we can share out. But I think we had a speed study, or not speed study, we had the speed sign out in August of 2025. And it was posted at the fire station, right, Chief Cohen? And then we have data on that. Am I reading, is that correct? Did you have the same ones?
Yeah, I put it out at the fire station at Chief Levesque's request because he wanted to see how fast trucks or vehicles were going by the fire department. So I put it on town land, so I didn't have to do a permit. And I had the feedback sign off and no posted speed limit up. So it was just collecting data. And that's what I gave to Caitlin.
So that speed, that posted speed in that location is 30. Vehicles per day that was recorded in that time period was 1879, so 1,879. The median speed limit is 42. The 85th percentile was 48. 97% of folks were over the limit, and 57% more than 10 over. The fastest recorded there was 80. So we have that raw data. I'm wondering if it's recent enough. Otherwise, we can do it again at
I
the.
think that's pretty right still. It is pretty.
Yeah, that's more recent than the data that I was thinking we had. So.
We
Checking with-
can-
Done the study. Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Your intuition is correct, sir.
Yeah, I mean that then there's more than that too. That's just a summary of it all. We have it by line, so we can, depending on what is needed, we can share that.
80.
I'm a huge proponent of pursuing this permit. I think that the feedback, if nothing else, provides feedback to people. I don't know if it'll make a measurable impact or not, but it's a small
That is actually,
lever we can pull to try to make some impact.
Well, I'll
Go
be
ahead.
honest,
If you have more data, go for
I'm
it.
so sorry. I'm looking at this and against the others, and I know that this is not on record, so we can, we are planning to share this out once we get it. Really conclusive all spaces, but I mean, it's the most offensive zone.
So can you reach out, Josh, and see if that previous study is applicable, and if not, if they would accept the 2025 speed data?
Absolutely.
And that would cover East Main Street, we would want to, my hunch, I don't know what the rest of the board is, I would think we would want to do one at both ends.
Yeah, I would think we want to
We've
look,
had-
we're gonna look into one, we should look into both, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'll start that process and we'll start to research some sign types as well and see
Great.
what might be out there. Sure thing.
Anything else we want to?
I was just gonna say, I don't drive fast. But with all the construction on the interstate recently, taking Route 2 to Waterbury. And coming back into Richmond, I've been surprised at how fast I'm going. When I cross the new bridge, I like realize I'm in town and I look down at my speedometer and oh my God, stand on the brake. So it's slow me going that fast. Other
That
people
hill
are
is
too.
smooth and straight now, and I've noticed myself to come out of the driveway, get to the speed limit, and you can coast down that hill and you gain speed, you don't lose speed, which
Yeah.
is just tricky to remember to be on the brakes. So it's definitely an issue.
Yeah.
Chief Cohen, and then we're gonna move on to the next item.
I was just gonna say if there's a resident on the West Main side that would volunteer their lawn for the speed cart, reach out to me because there's not a really good spot that's outside the right of way. I'd have to put it on someone's lawn.
Would we want to aim that? Would we want to aim it east or aim it west?
I would assume people coming into the village aiming it from the eastbound for the eastbound traffic.
Yeah.
But I'll leave it up to what this study needs.
Yeah, I think, well, it depends on which way we want to face the sign, which I think is people entering, so
Yeah.
I would agree we would face it west as we catch travelers coming into the village. Well, yeah, first things first, let me check if our old data would suffice, and then we don't have to collect more. If you want to collect more on private property, I think that'd be fine. We could also, it wasn't that hard to get the permit from the state for the temporary placement either. That was fairly easy, all things considered. So we could also look into that if you wanted more data.
Can't imagine a vehicle going across that new bridge at 80 miles an hour.
I went by the speed limit sign at 80, so by the fire station at 80. Yeah.
That's
It was a motorcycle. Sure.
Actually, motorcycles often don't get picked up by radar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next we have consideration of replacing one or more speed humps on Cochran Road with speed tables. We all know. We've gone through this a lot of times, so this is a pretty specific. This is a very specific agenda item, action item for us to consider tonight.
Yeah, I almost put this up at the beginning as something to remove from the agenda for this evening. I thought the last time that we discussed this, that we had settled on that we would not take action at this point in time. We would look into the data further. We'd look into alternatives, but that no one, and I'm speaking for myself at least, felt comfortable making a change until something, an alternative was in place for pedestrians who are walking in that area.
I think it was the speed signs with the bumps as well as better paint directions, right?
Yes, and then once we had an idea of if there are some alternatives to put in place, then we would reassess at that point. But at this point, it's the only measure that is slowing speed down in places where pedestrians are walking. I've gotten a lot of feedback from both sides. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people who are actually walking that area, and because of the speed information that we have, I wouldn't feel comfortable making a change there at this point in time.
Understood.
I
Bart?
will only add, I have taken it upon myself to do a Chittenden County tour of speed bumps and speed tables. And there's some variety.
Do you hit them all if you committed to hitting them all at the posted speed limit?
I am basically shooting at 20 to 25 and it's 20 and then 25, and like Williston, they are speed tables that behave pretty similar in my vehicle to the speed bumps on Cochran Road, but I don't know how different vehicles are. I can go over both at 20 to 25 miles an hour.
Greg?
I think perhaps because I wasn't at the meeting on the 20th of July that I might be missing something. I just was trying to understand what Mrs. LeBounty's point was about truck traffic.
Oh yeah, she had pointed out correctly that that is a designated truck route by signage. And I had raised some concerns about the weight of the roads and all that stuff, and how those just seem to be incongruent with the signage for truck route and the signage for weight were kind of incompatible. And then there was further, maybe the underlying part there is that the use of the road has changed a little bit from when we designated it as a truck route. So that was brought up
It
as,
doesn't speak to the speed bump issue per
I
se.
think it was viewed as adjacent because we're putting speed bumps in a truck route and possibly slowing down or damaging or creating noise for neighbors and stuff. I think that's how it was framed. That's not a formal.
I had thought that was designated to be a truck route because of construction on Route 2, which is now done, so.
I don't know, I ride it almost every day and I think because we have projects going on all over town,
So it's
I see a lot of 13-yard dump trucks. Yeah, I mean, as part of the riding that, I realized there's precious little shoulder there.
Yeah.
You got the fog line and then it drops off into a ditch most of the. So, I mean, as a recreational user of Cochran Road, I feel like slowing people down is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll also mention that all the emails I've received from citizens have been against the idea of getting rid of the speed bumps.
Yeah, me too.
We've had a few people here speak at the public hearing in favor of it, but everything else I've seen, from letters from constituents or people, grabbing me at the library has been against the idea. So.
Caitlin?
Just to like tie off on this topic for now, I don't want it to feel like we're not gonna keep talking about Cochran Road, because we are gonna keep talking about Cochran Road. It just, I think we had decided not to do speed
Yeah,
tables for
I think
this
we had
year as a
received
decision
a
point.
specific request to make a decision on this. So a lack of emotion, I guess how I would view that, and I would urge the public to view that, would be that it's not a no or a yes, it's a continuance.
Yeah, it's not.
I think that's.
We're tabling it.
Yes.
And sorry, just to tie up on that point as well, I am working with Chief Cohen, we're looking at the data, and we will have things on future agendas to hopefully help continue to improve the situation.
That's very helpful.
Specific.
And elsewhere, yeah, speed.
It might be useful to set a sort of date when we will return to the topic, when we think we'll have data, the signs up, because I don't think the issue will entirely go away.
No.
And I think it might be prudent to have a sort of stake in the ground for a future conversation. I don't know what makes sense, like early winter, maybe? Is that a plausible time?
Yeah, at that point, the timelines or the deadlines for most of the grants that we could explore would have passed, so we would know what we were at least applying for, which might give us a better picture. My only hesitation there is like that might even be still be a little too early, because we want to. But I don't want to put a timeline on when we'd revisit it and let ourselves from like having that as part of the broader conversation when it's appropriate. So maybe even like late winter.
Yeah. And we can put a tentative, we're gonna give it 3 to 5 months to go through the process of vetting and grant exploration and all that.
Yep. Yeah, and I said this last meeting too, but if folks want to meet and talk about Cochran Road or otherwise, I'm happy to do so. I've had a couple people come and visit me at my office in town. Mornings are great. Reach out.
Great. Oh, we have Jean online. Go ahead.
Sorry, I had trouble unmuting. I just was thinking, could you put something like in the ballot at town meeting? So again, not to have it be a question at town meeting, but when we have any Australian ballot voting, to ask the residents, are you in favor of or are you against the speed humps on Cochran Road? And so there's no real action, but giving all the voters an opportunity to give their opinion, because not everybody will come to the meetings and not everybody, attends the select board meetings, but everybody has an opinion. And so wouldn't you want to hear their opinion?
Gene, just to clarify, you
Didn't vote on
you
integration.
envision that kind of being an advisory item similar
Yeah,
to some items in
yeah.
the past? I think
And
that's a good idea.
not even really an advisory, I guess you can call it that, but it's like just getting information. That's a good way to get information on how people feel about anything. So no action to be taken, but what do you think of this? Yes or no?
So just one note procedurally on that. I think it's a good idea to get more information, but it would have to be an in-person question because it's a public question, it's advisory. The only things that can go on the Australian ballot are like elections for individual offices or budgetary items.
Oh man, that sucks.
I know.
Well, well, how about
But a survey, so a survey is another way to reach out and do it. The only concern, the challenge with the survey is you don't know if it's all Richmond residents responding.
Yeah.
There could be out of town who are responding.
So we could
You
do,
kind of go on the honor system a little bit
we
there.
could do both though, and we can kind of weigh them against
There you
each
go.
other and use them as two.
Show up to vote.
Yeah,
Done.
well, I do, but a lot of
Oh, I
people
see what you're
don't.
saying, like a survey at town meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Gene. That's a great idea.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Next we have an update. Oh, this is the wrong one. We have discussion of options to consider regarding requests to improve legal trail number 2 off of Dugway Road to a driveway, including a license agreement for improvements and a or a discontinuation of the legal trail. Do you want to give us some?
Yeah,
of this, John?
I'll give a bit of.
Before you start,
There
I
you go,
just need to indicate that I have to recuse myself on this issue. So, thank you.
It's great.
So I guess I'll give a bit of a, I assume you're Mr. Chiarelli.
Yes,
Okay.
Nick Shirley. Nice
I've
to
only
see you all.
spoken on the phone, so nice to meet you in
Yeah.
person. So I guess I want to give a bit of a history. I know we put this on the agenda 2 weeks ago. It was sort of the first time the select board had a chance to look at this, and I will say at that point we had sort of limited information. Maybe didn't do a good job of explaining to the board and to the public what was going on. So I want to go back, I think, to 2022. There was a item before the board, actually 2 items, looking at this trail as a potential driveway in the future. At that time, there was an access permit and a road name. The select board did approve the access permit, knowing that there would be addition at some point a house at the end of this legal trail. And they also approved a road name for this. In that time, then after that, there was a decision before the DRB, a DRB application for adding the house. I think it was a subdivision application. It was discussed to add the house, was approved. I believe that on the plans for the DRB application, it did indicate that it was a legal trail, but it really wasn't explored with any more information or any detail about what that would mean for the development of that into a driveway. So the legal trail, I guess I should define that too for everybody. So legal trail is basically the town has the rights to that right of way. It does lay over private property. In this case, that property is owned mostly by the Rosens up until the end when it's owned by Mr. Chiarelli, who's recently purchased that. So the town does have legal rights. People can walk on the legal trail like a trail. It's open to the public. So then Mr. Chiarelli came to the zoning office maybe 6 months to a couple months ago to look into getting a permit to develop the driveway. At that point, the zoning administrative officer, Dante Denault, looked at it and said, oh, there's a legal trail here. What do we have to do with that? So that's when it kind of circled back to my office. I said, oh yeah, I remember the history. This goes back a couple of years, but we never really addressed how do we go about developing that into a driveway and what are the proper approval processes. So since the last meeting, we've reached out for some legal advice, and one of the options is the town could discontinue the trail, which would mean that you would have to follow a hearing process where you warn a hearing 30 days out, go through a site visit, do a hearing, and then you have 60 days to decide if you want to discontinue the trail, and then it would revert back to the underlying landowners, and their town would extinguish its rights. Another way that's potentially a little quicker is to do a license agreement, which would basically say that there's the right to develop the driveway at the landowner's expense to build and to maintain, and the town doesn't take any responsibility for maintaining it. At that point, though, it would still be open to the public to walk on the trail. the location of this trail, and I'll share a screen. I was reading from some notes here. Let me pop open a map just to show the location of where we're looking at here. It's up near the gorge, near the Rosen Farm, if people are familiar with that area. Put the map up here, so. All right, so here is Huntington Gorge area, and this, I think Huntington Gorge is in this area. The New Moon Ranch is here where the Rosens live. This is Legal Trail 2. You can see it's LT2. It's a little small here. It used to be a town highway. The town changed, I think, back in around year 2000.
2003, I think.
Yeah, it was changed over to a legal trail status. And really so it was basically a class 4 road. And then it changed over to a legal trail. So this is the area that we're talking about. As you can see, it really goes nowhere. It goes up to private property. There's not an additional trail system at the end of this. So there's not much for people to really do on it. And then Mr. Chiarelli is in a bit of a bind here where I think, going through the process with the DRB and his engineers, he thought, okay, all we have to do is get the permit. We're good to go. We can get this developed. So he's got some pending commitments for developing the driveway that he's trying to commit to and get that done in the next, really, I think, few weeks to months. So he's asking for sort of as a speedy process of review as we can get to, assuming the board wants to say yes to this request. So hopefully that gives some history as to where we are today. If there's questions or if there's anything I didn't fill in, feel free to.
Sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm fairly new to all this whole process. It's been, I think, 25 years this driveway's been trying to be built. It's been approved multiple times. I know that the town of Richmond has approved it because they required it to go from 14% to 12%. I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years ago. So it got fully redesigned. It was about a quarter mile long. So a 12% slope has been designed. It's ready to go. I got multiple bids for it before I purchased the property to make sure that I could afford it. And signed on the dotted line on Friday, have the property and have a contractor ready to go. He's started to order materials for it. To get the house built in the spring, I need the driveway in this fall. So there was a zoning permit approved about 3 years ago for the driveway as well, from the previous owner, because he was going to build up there. Never ended up happening, and it did expire, the zoning permit, I think in 25. There was also approval from the DRB with one contingency or two contingencies. One of them that the impervious area had to be below 30% or whatever it was. That's easy. The second one was that the two lot owners up there, which is now myself and Clayton Rabideau, that the two of us have to come to a road maintenance agreement, which I provided to the town already. So it seemed like it was under the assumption that the town did not have to maintain the road, and that's how they were getting around it, which is fine. We're going to use the road. It's not, I didn't even know it was a town trail until fairly recently. So that's kind of where I'm at. I thought it was totally ready to just start digging, and even the utility pole that has to get moved, I called Vermont Electric Co-op to let them know we were going to get started, and they thought it was already moved and the driveway had already been done years ago. So it seems like it's just been looked at so many times, and I keep coming up against a different, not point of view, but I just don't know how to proceed with getting started on the project. So I'm very thankful to Dante and Josh for helping me, and I do appreciate that it has to go through the right channels, and the town doesn't want to be liable for anything. And on how Josh was pointing out, the town trail doesn't go to anywhere. We do have concerns about it being a town trail, especially after I hear about what's going on Dugway Road. So upgrading that farm road to a nice looking 15-foot wide driveway seems like it could be bringing problems that I don't want, and I don't want around my 4 girls and my wife. So I would much rather go through the process to get it relinquished So it is private property and that people don't see it as a town trail on the map and think they can go up there and literally just get to our house. Because there's a lot of acreage up there, but it's private property. So I don't want it to be delayed, but I would like to do them both at the same time and have it relinquished as quickly as possible, but more importantly, just get the driveway started so we can build our house in the spring.
Hard.
So it seems to me the fork in the road, so to speak, is the license agreement, which is faster, but it doesn't throw up the trail. Or throwing up the trail, which will take months. And with the hearing, I can anticipate we'll hear from residents in town who don't want to give up a trail. This has happened before, in fact. We went to a major foofara about something, was it a trail or was it not a trail? Was it a road, not a road, on another parcel that also didn't go anywhere? That trail dead ended. And so I'm just cautious about it, given a very similar set of circumstances. The last part of a dead end road with a road or trail that ostensibly went like, was it like a third of a mile or something?
Yeah.
And then dead ended at private property. And that took a very long time to resolve.
Yeah,
I guess I would say it, two different issues, obviously closely intertwined. The only way we're gonna get you on a construction schedule would be with a license agreement.
Right.
And then I think we could pursue, you think you've indicated you would like to pursue. Establishing the trail, we could pursue that also. That's up to many months long process.
With an uncertain outcome.
So I'd say for the license agreement, short term, I've dug through this all the paperwork, the history of it, talked to Dante about it, reviewed all the permits that were issued, and it seems clear to me with the timeline of when this subdivision was approved initially, there was a class 4 road there. And the understanding was that the owner or owners of those lots would improve that class 4 road. After that was approved, the state, there was a law went through or a piece of legislation, but it basically took old class 4 roads and reduced them to public trail status after the subdivision was approved. So the subdivision was originally approved in 2000 or 2001, and the trail thing happened in 2003, I believe. It was 2 years. Yeah.
I think it was more like 2013, 14. If
It was 2008.
Well, I thought it was in the single digits, 2000.
But I
Right?
thought-
It was after the initial. So my point, I guess my point is that the initial subdivision, this was assumed to be a class 4 road that would be improved at the owners or someone's expense, not the town's, and maintained at someone else's expense. Got turned into a trail. So getting rid of the trail status aside, I'm very comfortable entering into a license agreement. The engineering is well vetted. It's a very well engineered driveway. I'm sure that your bids reflect that.
They do.
The stormwater is also the same level, and I'm sure again that the bids
happy it's
reflect
going to
that.
be safe. Honestly.
It's going to be safe, and it's not going to wash out, and there will be no stormwater impacts on anyone around it. So I think from that, to cover all those bases, from the license agreement standpoint, I'm very comfortable with that. I don't think we can provide you any guarantees or timeline on the trail process. We can definitely pursue it. But it's kind of, we're just the arbiter of the public will at that point.
I didn't think of that as an option until me and Dante were talking about it, and it just seemed like there was really no point for it to be a trail except inviting danger, honestly.
I mean, I think, to Bart's point, people will want to never give up any rights. And then there's a valid reason to be concerned about a trail that ends only your private property. I can see both sides of that.
I've never seen, I mean, it shows there where it is, but the driveway actually is a little bit off that. It's going to be shifted to the right, maybe 10
to hit the grades, it kind of
hit the
changed a
grade,
little bit, right?
getting dug down like 15 feet. So I don't know what technicalities there are. Technically, if you're following the trail, it's going to be off to the left of the road, which won't be walkable. So I just don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of technicalities that I'm unsure about.
I certainly hope we allow the licensing, and at the time that we will throw this trail up to revert back to full private ownership, I will support that because, nobody, as Andy testified earlier today, nobody, stays off your property unless you physically remove them. And no one honors a trail to nowhere. All this traffic should be directed to the 428 acre town forest, all of it. So what has to happen over there? This is a future discussion, but we need to expand parking over there because that certainly had 428 acres of town owned land. You can find some parking over there. So I support the licensing agreement for this gentleman for his driveway. And when the time comes, I'll be here to throw up that trail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
So what, Mary, board members? You guys
Yeah,
have
I
concerns
agree.
or-
No.
Go proceed with the licensing agreement. That's my opinion.
Pursue the other.
Yeah,
I guess my recommendation would be just to pursue the license agreement immediately, and then we can pursue the trail issue, maybe not much later of a date, but as we get that figured out, we can
Sure.
do that.
It
I
sounds
think
good.
trying to couple two together in any way at all will have a chance of
yeah.
tying stuff up for you.
Yeah.
And as far as, I guess, timeline, knowing that you're anxious to make sure you have like a legal document, it says
Yeah.
you're good, because I know you've had a few twists and turns in this that have been somewhat unexpected. And I'll ask our attorney to draft an agreement. I know he showed me one that he was working on for another town that's very, very similar. I think there's one wrinkle here where the Rosens own the land and they're developing, so we'd have to figure that out. But if he's able to get me an agreement that you agree with as well, by like the end of this week, would you guys be open to doing a special meeting sooner before the next meeting, which is August 17th?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so a lot of that's gonna depend on how quickly the attorney get things turned around.
Yeah.
But I'll get this to him tomorrow and try to have him get started. Fair warning, he has been a bit underwater lately. There's been a lot of, we've been demanding a lot of him as well as his other clients, but I'll try to see if he can move this a little quicker.
Okay.
Mary?
Yeah, in lieu of a special meeting, can't you just approve it pending the approval between the two parties?
I mean, that
The
was going to
lawyer, the
be
town
Yeah, I mean,
my
representative,
hunch.
town representative is Josh as your agent, and that way you guys don't have to have a special meeting, warrant, blah, blah, blah.
Or if you wanna, I mean, you could make. a
That was going to be my
motion,
thought, was to approve it and authorize you to sign it.
Cool.
I reviewed the agreement, so our attorney sent us an agreement that hasn't been formalized in another town, so we asked that we don't share it publicly because they're still working through that, but it was very, very well thought out and it protected the town very well. It also authorized the homeowner or their contractors or agents to do all the work, and it had clear stipulations about how that work would be completed and held to the plans. So I thought it covered it very well. I would be comfortable doing that, but I don't know about the rest of the board.
It's just so I understand who the parties to the license agreement are. Is it just the two of us? Are the Rosens involved? And then is Clayton Rabideau involved as, I guess, an intended future user of the?
There's two lots up there, 21, which belongs to Nick, and 22, which belongs to Clayton. They would be sort of tenants in common on that road.
So does
So there
that
could be,
mean
there could be
that?
up to 4 parties involved between the town, the Rosens, and then the 2 property
The
owners. that
property
are,
owners.
Yeah, I'm
So
not
that
sure how
might take
if
a
the Rosens would, yeah, I know there's a right of way through their property for us to build, but I'm not sure how, if they would need to be a part of that or not. And
Yeah,
I'm very on board with the driveway happening and everything, and he's talked about how he's seen 2 people in the time he's lived here go up there, so it doesn't get used, and
I guess,
yeah, I would love that if we could.
I'm not sure that I will be able to review that at any level that has more expertise than our town attorney. I mean, that's usually who we would defer to. So if we have him drafting the agreement, I'm comfortable. that
And
we'll be
determining the
protected.
parties.
And determining the parties.
Yeah, because I think he'd have to look at the parties, look at the agreements you have in place, and then look at the plans, because as you mentioned, it sort of meanders around the trail a little bit.
Mostly
It's not
just-
perfectly over it.
Yeah, I mean, it just it's cutting into the hill, so they
Yeah.
have to move it right 10 to 15 feet depending on where you are.
So I would want him to kind of take a look at all the things,
Yeah.
and then.
Yeah.
Like you said, yeah, he's gonna be the best one to be like, yeah, this is how we need to structure this, so that it protects the town, and then you would want
I
to,
agree.
your people, but I think if there's a motion to do that.
I would
I'm
feel
comfortable.
differently if someone else is drafting the agreement because our attorney will be doing this.
Right,
I'm very comfortable authorizing you to execute that, if the rest of the board is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty unique set of circumstances with who's drafting it and the parties involved.
okay.
History of the engineering.
And maybe that gives you some comfort too, like, that you can put your deposit on your concrete even before the agreement's drafted, because I think you're getting some assurance from the select board that like,
Yeah.
we're gonna get this done.
Okay,
So-
thank you. I talked to him this morning. I told him to put the order in, but I haven't paid him yet.
All right, yeah,
So
so,
they
yeah.
haven't put the order in, right?
He pays when he picks it up, he said, so. But yeah,
This hopefully gives some assurance that things are on the right track. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the body that needs to decide.
yeah,
So here
thank
we
you.
go.
Appreciate it.
So we would need a motion to authorize. I don't know how we would word that. What we were
Do we need a motion or can we just delegate
Well, if
it?
we're gonna authorize Josh, I would want to,
I would
I think
say-
we should formalize that and make a
Okay.
motion on it.
I would say you move to agree to enter into a licensing agreement for a driveway on legal trail number 2 and designate town manager Josh Arneson as duly authorized representative to sign the licensing agreement after it's drafted by the town attorney.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? Art, aye.
Caitlin, I.
David, I.
Adam, aye. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Good luck. You'll be the one that stays on top of the hill now. All right, third time's the charm.
Thank you.
See you at the next meeting.
Next we have an update from Road.
Your jacket,
Next we have an
somebody's.
update from Road Foreman to inspect a culvert that was installed into the Class 4 section of Johnny Brook Road in consideration of retroactively approving the installation of this culvert. So we touched on this last week, 2 weeks ago. I apologize. There was a culvert installed. There's a little bit of a hiccup with a town committee. They didn't realize that they needed town approval. They didn't realize the town road foreman should have inspected ahead of time. They installed it and Pete was going to inspect it and report back. Did he?
Yeah.
As a note or?
He actually said that he had talked to them a bit during the process to kind of consider what to do there. He said, I don't have an actual note from that.
Yeah.
What he told me was, it was initially a 12-inch culvert. They kind of got smushed and I think eventually disappeared from the site somehow. So he knew there was already a 12-inch culvert in there. They replaced it with a 12-inch culvert. He actually gave them some gravel to set that culvert in. He's very happy with the way it's installed there. He also says it handles a very small amount of water. So there's not like a large amount of water where he wants wing walls or any sort of reinforcement. So he's very happy with the culvert and the way it's installed. So I think that's a good sign from Goslin.
Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to retroactively approve the replacement of a failing culvert on the Class 4 section of Johnny Brook Road because, as our town manager said, it got swooshed.
Is that a term of art?
That is now.
Great.
You have a second or would we like to make him amend that? We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? All right.
Caitlin, I.
Greg, I.
David, I.
Adam, aye. Thank you to the Trails Committee too. And there's a little bit of a hiccup there, but thanks for doing that work and then working with us to get it approved through all the correct channels. Next, we have an update on a timetable for installation of signage at the intersection of Thompson Road, Huntington Road, Bridge Street, and Cochran Road, and the installation of speed advisory signs on the Cochran Road speed humps.
Yeah, so I talked with Pete. We do not have the advisory speed signs in stock. That's not something that we normally keep in stock. But because we've talked about THBC intersection with additional signage, which is fairly custom signs as far as like approaching the intersection, as well as the speed advisory signs, Pete put in one order for all the signage at once, sort of got it all together. He expects that to be in with a week or so, and he expects to have those installed within a couple of weeks. They're fairly, once they're here, they are fairly easy to just go put up. We just got to get them ordered and get them here. So
Give or
that's no
take end of
problem.
August, somewhere around there.
I'd say even middle of August, perhaps, to
Great.
get those up. The rectangular rapid flashing beacon, we're going to put it on Huntington Road as you approach the THBC intersection, is on order. That's actually about 6 to 8 weeks. I think I saw it might be here as soon as the end of August. So, but they take a little bit of time to get here. Once that arrives, they assemble that in the shop. They will also assemble, oh no, I'm sorry. The radar speed feedback sign is on it. No, wait, it's not even that late. The crosswalk is on order. We do have a radar speed feedback sign in the shop. This is one of those ones we were talking about earlier, which was it good enough or not for West Main Street? Well, we weren't able to return it, so we still have it. So that's going to be the same one that goes up in front of the intersection there because we have it. He's going to take the time to assemble both of those once the crosswalk comes in and then install both of those. They're very similar work where he needs a workshop and the same types of tools and equipment to put them in. So those I'd say, you know, mid-September, mid-October timeframe, because he also has sidewalk plans and other things to get through, but as soon as those get here, he'll be working on it.
Perfect. Thank you, Josh.
Was there not also, and maybe I just haven't noticed, the lines painted on the road?
The line is
They're
painted through the
painted.
center of the road. Yeah,
Yeah.
that got done with our normal line striping contract, and you guys, I think, approved that before the larger discussion, because we had the line stripers coming and we said, do you want to do it? And you all said,
It does delineate the
it
travel,
was.
the travel lanes better. and
Yeah,
make it
I like it there on East Hill. I think it's a good visual cue, so
Nice.
nice to see.
Of course, the water project has the pavement all torn up now. So
Yeah, and I think we actually, well, right, they're gonna tear up that intersection too. I think we deliberately didn't stripe the Bridge Street portion knowing it was gonna get torn up, but I have to look back at the exact order.
We should send them a strongly worded letter.
So anyway,
And
yeah,
attach it to
we'll
their invoice.
restripe it again next spring, I'm sure. Mhm.
There
yeah,
you go. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah,
Next we have consideration of approving the ballot for justices of the peace for November 3rd, 2026 election to be printed on the backside of the general election ballot and to be mailed to all registered voters in Richmond at the expense of the state.
yeah, so normally the select board approves the warning and ballot for the town meeting in March. You've never really approved and you never have the authority or need to approve the ballot for November. The only thing that's really changing here is that the state is going to mail the general election ballot to all registered voters. And in order to mail a municipal ballot, which the only municipal election item is the justices of the peace, you need select board approval. So we'll just print it on the back. It'll be at the state's expense and they'll mail it out to all registered voters. So hopefully, if you want to do that, you can go ahead and vote that. If you don't do that, then we'd have to create a separate ballot. And then town clerk would sort of hold that one on separately, would not mail it to all registered voters, and you'd have to have a separate process to mail it out to people that request it. So it gets more expensive and more complicated if we don't just say, okay, state, go ahead and mail the ballot.
Since the state is already mailing this seems
Yeah.
like an obvious thing to piggyback on.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to approve that the ballot for justices of the peace for the November 3rd, 2026 election be printed on the backside of the general election ballot and be mailed to all registered voters in Richmond at the expense of the state. of
This is
Vermont.
Caitlin, I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Art, I.
Caitlin, I.
Greg, aye.
David, I.
Adam, aye.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the minutes from the July 20th, 2026 select board meeting.
This is
Second.
Caitlin, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Art, I.
Caitlin, I.
Greg, aye, I guess.
David, I.
Adam, aye. We have purchase orders.
Yeah, let me talk about town center fund first and then do purchase orders.
The elevator one?
Yeah, so the elevator is the gift that
Oh, right.
keeps on giving. So
Taking.
yeah, we had a power outage in the village on Monday, July 27th. When the power came back on, there was a power surge that fried the CPU for the elevator at the library
And my air conditioner.
and David's air conditioner, which is not covered by town insurance. The repair company needs a check for parts before they can order the parts and come out and repair it. And we'll pay for labor after installation. We're also going to install a surge protector in an effort to protect the system from a power surge in the future. I know Duncan reached out to VLCT to see if we could get them to cover it through insurance. And Duncan, he's on the meeting. I think I saw an email today that they're going to cover at least the CPU portion of it, but I got backed up on emails. Was that accurate, Duncan? He may not be there. So I think that they said they were going to.
Yeah, no, I've got that first part, but I haven't followed up on the CPU.
Okay. And then the other thing that Adam brought up when we talked about it was maybe Green Mountain Power would pay for it, and you've seen that in other instances. So
Yeah.
we're going to follow with VLCT to see if they can try to get the money out of Green Mountain Power, so that way it doesn't go as a ding against our insurance rating. So we'll follow with both of those. But for now, we want to, at least pay the bills out of the town center reserve fund, and any reimbursement we put back in the town center.
And you can even submit them directly to GMP without going through insurance. Mostly, I mean, I've done that in our own house. We had power.
Right.
Same thing, went out like lightning storm, cooked a bunch of controls on a boiler, refrigerator, all that stuff. And I called them just to like shot in the dark, and they said, submit the invoices. And they just sent me a check for like $4,600.
Okay.
It was it was very easy. So I was actually shocked. And I guess they have ways of monitoring what's happened. And so they know when there's been an event. And so they don't need a lot of backup because they know something's happened.
Not the railroad.
It's not like the railroad. I was shocked.
Vermont Electric Co-op.
We're talking about the town center fund. I'm curious, how much money in the town center fund is available to pay all that checklist that the town center committee presented, the items that needed to be taken care of? Any matchy on that yet, or is that just still out there in the ether?
We're still chipping away at it. I don't think we have a specific timeline on it, but we had part of the first step of that was to get Pete on board, and we're going to evaluate some things. And I know there's been some work on the masonry. Probably should be.
Yeah, Pete's not doing that though.
No, he's working through bidding it out for us and kind of doing that end of it. So he's not doing it, but he's putting together bid packages to get contractors.
Excuse me, he has that professional ability?
Yeah.
To bid out a job?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that was part of it. That was part of it.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's probably larger firms that could have a more refined process, but for the other
No.
process that size, yeah.
So,
Refer to him as a handyman.
He's a handyman plus, I think.
So on that, the select board did review, I think, the list of sort of shorter term items that we're working on. I don't have the numbers. in my head right now.
That's fine.
No, but then just an update on the larger items that we're looking at. Duncan and I actually met today with Derek Osterman from, forgetting the name of the company, but the company that we hired to do the longer term review. So he sort of has done a deep dive into everything we did with Black River, what the information we had leading up to the bond vote. And we're looking at, okay, what projects do we want to address and how do we want to do that? So Duncan and I have homework to talk to town staff to figure out, okay, what's important to everybody here. Derek's going to look at, what does he suggest as far as life safety, or how would he prioritize things? And then come to the select board with the idea of, okay, do we want to look at these projects in different phases? Do we want to do a larger lump? Where do we want to pair together? So we're trying to sort of pull that apart and give some menu options to the select board. Anticipate probably sometime this fall, we'll come back to you guys with some better looking at the larger items. And this would be like HVAC, windows, those types of things.
I do want to just recall that the reason we put an item on the ballot and was that we would do these things in chunks, that there wouldn't be an attempt to turn this into one $9 million project.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to stay with that if we can, because I think there was a logic to that, which is voters just are getting shell shocked with big bond issues. And
yeah, that's right. And it's Colliers, they'll be able to help us figure out, okay, what makes sense to phase it in, how, what, like, once you do the windows, you should do the HVAC, like how do you phase that in?
Physically do that.
Yeah, and what maybe, what we do without some of the internal switching around of offices, which is why we want to also talk to staff to say, like, how important is that to everybody? Or could we do part of it, but not all of it, like just trying to look at it with fresh eyes. So more to come on that, but good question.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that related to the $10 million bond issue is when the committee presented all that, right now, we can have 6 meetings going on at the same time. At the reconstruction, all that other follow-up, there was gonna be 1 meeting space. So right now, we can have a meeting here, there could be a meeting in the kitchen, there could be a meeting in the principal's office. There's 2 reading rooms down there, and there's 1 on the first floor. Actually, that's 7 places we can have meetings. So with the new configuration, I don't know what the thinking was, but we were gonna have 1 meeting room. Now that's really efficient. So yes, I agree that we don't wanna make this into one $9,000 budget, but if the library can get what they need, this building funds the library, so we ought to be able to get at least half of that chipped away at a reasonable cost.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barrett.
what was the total on that elevator bill?
Yeah, sorry.
Just the parts were $4,749.16, and we won't pay labor. We don't know the labor amount until they come to do the.
They had a half a dozen trucks here. There were more Otis trucks in the parking lot than
For a thing that's like this big.
That damn elevator is their cash cow.
Well, ours is just a cow.
Steel six for.
Yeah, I really am gonna make an issue out of it if they come back with $10,000 worth of labor. Because I know those guys get paid more than Philadelphia lawyers.
Big chunk of change for elevator work for their place. We got $9,000 to do an oil change here. 2 months ago?
Yeah.
No, twice.
Yeah,
Oh,
the,
twice.
and I think, let me see, where's the,
Which is the library out of service right now?
the elevator is, yeah.
I'm sorry, the
unfortunately.
elevator.
So I think that number, there was an estimate on labor. So I think the number I gave you did include an estimate
On
on
the
labor.
grass.
Yeah, because there's, let's see, this was the CPU.
Why do you need a CPU for an elevator to go up a floor?
Parts deposit,
Everything has a CPU.
$46.
Yeah.
Um,
Cause you don't have a guy standing in there going, fourth floor.
Yeah.
We saw an elevator, we worked at Green Mountain, we bought Tully's coffee, there was a 4,160 volt line voltage elevator with mechanical contactor controls.
Wow.
And we go up there and we like, oh yeah, have someone turn it on. We're watching, and there was like, the lights were not on. There was no lights in there. We had phones, and all of a sudden you could see like daylight as stuff's like flashing, and it all worked. It's the
Okay.
scariest thing I've ever seen.
No, I'm sorry, that doesn't include labor. They did
Yeah.
give some estimates on labor. One was like $700, but the CPU is gonna be more than that. So, and then I don't see an estimate on a quick review here. So yeah, so this is for the parts to kind of get it going.
Okay. This seemed like a big turnout for a elevator repair.
Oh, yeah.
It pays well.
Well, both companies we work with seem to operate very similarly and have very similar rates.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, you dealt with them before, I'm sure, as well.
Pro athlete kind of wages, I'm telling you.
Elevated prices.
Maybe we need a salary cap on the elevator industry. So,
I'd like to make a motion for the,
Nope. Not doing it.
Do we have?
Oh, sure.
I mean,
As part, I move to approve the use of $4,749.16 from the town center fund to pay for repairs to the library elevator.
This is Caitlin, I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Not complaints, David, just discussion. All those in favor?
Barney.
Caitlin, I.
Greg, I.
David, I.
Adam, I.
all right, now we got a purchase order, just one amendment. So this was a quote that Pete got back, I think in like March for the plow body for the pickup truck. We ended up delaying this purchase,
Price gone up?
the price went up a little bit, yeah, of course, but we ended up, and that's why it went up, because I think it was valid for 30 days, and then we ended up delaying it to FY27. So it went from 17,466 to 18,315, so less than $1,000. The installed price Pete put here as reference, he's actually going to install it himself, which saves a couple $1,000s of installation. So Pete, being thrifty as he usually is and resourceful, that's his contribution of what he can do to reduce this. So that's the motion, is to amend it to get it up so we can get the purchase in.
Mr. Chair, this is David. I move to amend purchase order number 5191 to Iroquois Truck Bodies and Sales to a new amended amount of $18,315.
Bart, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Bart, aye.
Aye.
Greg, I.
David, I.
Adam, I.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the warrants as presented.
This is Bart, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Bart, aye.
Caitlin, I.
Greg, I.
David, I.
Adam, I. We could adjourn, do items for next meeting.
I got a confusing call from a constituent. When we met with Amy Demetrowitz and all those people, the subject property was the stuff down at the end of Railroad Street, wasn't it?
Yes, it's Borden Street, which is off Railroad Street.
Right. And then this person was convinced that it was at the cheese factory.
Oh, no,
That's
totally different project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Building a court.
Those are not, yeah. Those are.
You're not part of the land trust at all.
Oh, I'm resolved. That is a question.
I mean, I could see though, development in the village, you know, easy to
Not many.
conflict, if you're not paying attention to the blow by blow, easy to conflate the two. All right,
Do you have any items on the next agenda come to mind right now?
Follow up with, well, we probably have this already. Mr. Aldrich on.
Oh, yeah.
Big one.
I think we should go into the elevator repair business.
I don't know, they get paid a lot, but every elevator guy I've ever seen does not look happy either, so it's obviously not working.
So the guy, he's not making the money.
No, but even the, yeah. We should touch on the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission expectations.
Yep.
You got that?
already, yeah.
Well, that's all I have. Anyone else got anything else? Adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Bart, I'll second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Feeling I?
Greg, hi.
David, I.
Adam, nay.
Just to be a
Too bad.
contrarian.
All right.
That was a planned outage. I don't know why there was a huge spike when it came back on.
Oh yeah, I guess it was planned, so. All right, I'm gonna say goodbye, everybody. Turn it off.
Night,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right.